Hello and welcome to today's video, and I just wanted to introduce you to a new sort of small project that I've got here. Now, you sometimes find in sort of junk shops and those sort of house clearance shops, you sometimes find these sort of early to mid 2000s portable CRTs. Usually they're Vestal CRTs, so produced by the company Vestal, who produce a lot of televisions these days using names such as Toshiba, JVC, and some of the cheaper Panasonic sets I think are also Vestal chassis affairs. Anyway, you do tend to come across a lot of these, and a lot of them are usually destined for landfill or recycling. Now, what I thought would be sort of a nice idea is if I actually took this particular set, painted it some different colours, and generally sort of made it look a little bit interesting, and used it for one of my children's rooms. I mean, a lot of children these days, or a lot of young adults, seem to have, sort of huge LCD sets, 40 inches and above, and you don't really need a 40-inch television in a bedroom. A 14-inch television is going to suffice. At the most, I'd say a 20-inch television. So, to save this one from the landfill and to make it a little bit more interesting, I'm going to actually sort of take the case off at some point and actually paint the case a range of interesting colours. Now, the first thing I wanted to do was to actually get inside it and just see how much dust had collected over the years and if there were any components that needed to be replaced on an urgent basis. As you can see, it's literally held on with 4 screws. Now, the tubes in these later sets do seem to have a very good, very long life. Even though the sets were very cheap, you did seem to sort of reach the pinnacle of CRT development in these very late sets, which, just as they actually got the technology really completely sorted, they end of life the technology. So, yeah, that really sort of does seem the way that these things go. So it's actually very basic inside. There's nothing of much interest. The main board that you can see there is technically still repairable without replacement. It has twin AV inputs, so we've got SCART on the back. Not sure if it's RGB or composite only, but we've got a SCART socket on the back. We've got we've got a composite input on the front. You can see what I'm just doing here is I'm just going to discharge the tube. So I'm just using this probe, connect it to a point on the chassis itself. So there's basically some metal bolts holding the tube in. I wanted to earth it to one of the earthing straps going around the tube, but it was actually easier just to do it to this particular screw. So once I get in there, I just pop the probe under the anode cap, as you can see there, keeping my hand well away. There, it just actually made a cracking noise, which means it's discharging. And go under there again, another cracking noise, which is basically the spark jumping the gap. And when you're working on a set, it's always just a good idea just to leave it tucked under there so that the tube doesn't have a chance to build up any residual charge again. You can also get the same effect by potentially leaving the tube for a few hours or leaving the set for a few hours to discharge naturally, but it's always a good idea to discharge the set in the way that I'm doing. Now, nothing really much drastic here, just basically vacuuming out any sort of dust and other bits and pieces which may have collected. What you also might want to do is to get some compressed air and just spray it around that main board to get rid of any sort of built-in dust. Now, this particular set actually looks like it's come from a non-smoking home, so there's no sort of huge collections of tar or anything like that around there. It literally just is dust, and not that much dust at that, to be perfectly honest with you. Once I'd basically gone over it quickly with the vacuum cleaner, I just decided to really just have a quick look at what was actually in there. Now, you can see, sort of compared to that TX9 chassis that we looked at recently, These newer chassis seem to have almost everything just basically bunged onto a couple of large chips there. So I think one of them is a jungle chip, which basically does absolutely everything for the set itself. I think it might be that one I've just rubbed over. There's another chip on there which had a version number on it, which I think is the actual firmware for the television set itself. There was a development in the 90s called the I2C bus system, which is sort of like CAN bus that you tend to find in modern cars, but it basically simplified a lot of the internal components and communications in electronic devices. Anyway, this is going to make an interesting little project, and we will be seeing a little more of this set in the near future. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, take care, and we'll see you in the next video. Don't forget to like, subscribe and all of that stuff. Thanks again.